this is a complicated subject, but I myself was I decided to journey out from the world of being a researcher at MIT and potentially doing a startup myself. And I've been thinking of, I wanted to come to Silicon Valley to do so. It's the land of the entrepreneur.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of my friends, a lot of them are successfully have been entrepreneurs themselves, have said, do not come to Silicon Valley. It'd be you ran amazing teams of engineers. You started a lot of successful businesses. I wondered if you could comment on why a lot of people are leaving California. Is there something that could be fixed about California? If you were starting a business today, would you consider somewhere else like Austin or some other place? Or is Silicon Valley still, is it just a little lull? Everybody's being over dramatic during this particular year of the coronavirus and so on?
I think, even Austin's getting overheated, I hear.
Yes.
And I've had relatives and friends move to Texas within the last few months. So Texas as a whole is a big place. And, people are moving to Florida. There's a big movement toward Miami.
Yeah.
Peter Thiel, Keith Warble, all these people. The mayor has been very business friendly about it, which I think is just good politics. America is fundamentally a commercial republic. So you would think this would be what's happening. For a long time, California was the Golden State. I came here in late 76 when I was a teenager. It's in crushing debt due to the lockdowns. It's got the highest taxes. That's got to matter. People will do high taxes. It's got likely fires every year because of the deadfall. It's not global warming. It's because the forests weren't managed like they had been in the first part of the 20th century. Just, I would say, corruption at all levels, especially up to the governor, who famously was eating at the French Laundry and
Yes.
claimed to be outside. It was inside, and they were out with masks off, and it was great. Do what I say, not what I do. Rules for thee, but not for me. When you see that in leadership, people either run or they get rid of the leadership. So there's a recall drive, which is about to reach the threschhold. Or in the old days, they get their guns, right? You don't put up with this junk.
But ultimately, the thing that made Silicon Valley a special place, it gave freedom to like young kids, entrepreneurs, young minds, brave minds to think bold, to try different stuff. I mean, even if the taxes are high, so outside of financial stuff, outside of all of that,
housing super expensive.
So it's hard. Okay, everything about startups
Peninsula was narrow, and they didn't plan the roads right.
Yeah,
they got rid of public transportation in LA, like the Who Framed Roger Rabbit cartoon show. They used to have trolley cars in Portland too. Yeah. The oil companies and the DOD conspired to build highways and make cars dominant. And the rights of way are long gone. Like Elon's going to go underground. And I wish him well. That's probably the only way to do it now.
Yeah. But is it still a place? Do you think it's possible that Silicon Valley is still a place where magic happens, where the next Google is built, where the next, Brave is built, where...
I think all good things come to an end. I think the problem is Silicon Valley had strong network effects through Stanford, through the angel investor networks and the wealth effect. And originally, you have to give the federal government credit. Like the ARPANET was a government project. Let's not kid ourselves. This wasn't wild free market, libertarian capitalism. This was all Cold War stuff. You had out of the academia, you had Shockley, and then the Traitorous Eight, and Fairchild, and Intel. But now, when's the last fab that was built in the Valley? MicroUnity might have been the last fab. I don't know. I haven't followed, but we built a fab in Sunnyvale and at MicroUnity starting in the early 90s. And now the fabs are overseas. And the one thing that I would say that the oligarchs have intentionally done, in both parties, is sort of labor and environmental protection law arbitrage by going where the labor is cheaper and the environmental laws aren't as strict. And, that's polluted the hell out of parts of China, but it's made things, you can make cheaper junk. Yeah. And this is not a story that's over yet. So what is Silicon Valley for now? It's for the network effect, the brain trust, the who the parties, the Stanford sort of network. Mm-hmm. That's fragile too over time, I'm afraid, right? Stanford, a lot of good professors I like. They still filter, mainly based on socioeconomic status, but it's kind of a skate school. I had a friend hired out of Harvard 20 years ago at Netscape. And we talked about Harvard, and he said, yeah, there's still professors who grade on the curve. And I said, oh, yeah, I don't think there are any doing that at Stanford anymore. And he said, yo, it was shocking. Some of the students got C's and D's and they were crying. It's like, yes, that's right. The precious dears can't take that at Stanford. So they get A's and B's.
Yeah.
Now, you look at China, and people say what you will about China. They, true of Russia too, a lot of math science training, a lot of engineering, a lot of people who are doing their coursework to get the A's and the B's. So, I'm an American. I'm born on the 4th of July.
Really? 4th of July?
4th of July, yeah.
Wow.
And America, as I say, fundamentally is a commercial republic. You can try to make it something else. You can say it's the new Atlantis and mystify it. You could talk about it in a more, I think, correct way, which is 13 colonies that grew. And then there's a lot of local, or in the original design anyway, the Federalist Papers talk about this. There's a lot of subsidiarity. But that's been eroded over time. And like I say, a lot of the offshoring has hurt. So what happened with coronavirus? People working from home. And at first it was funny because I have friends at Google who used to grumble that not only did they have to come into the office, if they joined a different team that was centered in a different office, they had to move. Or, if the V8 team was reconstituted in Munich, which it was after Lars Bach just got tired of JavaScript, that they hired in Munich, or they hired PhDs from Germany and moved them to Munich. With coronavirus, everyone's working from home, and it's like, what a relief, I can work for Google from home. But then the next shoe dropped, and people started asking Mark Zuckerberg, hey, can I move to my hometown in the Midwest?
Yeah.
And he said, okay. And they said, oh, can I keep getting my Silicon Valley pay? No. We're going to figure out what your cost of living there is, and we're going to adjust your pay accordingly.
And these colonies and these little mini experiments that all combine to the big giant experiment. I don't know. I have this vision of America, which is a country. So I was born in Russia, like I said, here, and this is truly a wonderful country. I wasn't born on the 4th of July,
People
but
still
might
flee
as well
here.
be.
People still flee.
And I'm red-blooded American at this point, and I have a sense that we figured it out somehow. If Silicon Valley burns, another place will come up in its place that even more innovation, and people will move. And the remote work might change fundamentally how we work, or it might not. It might just give you the freedom to then create many other small Silicon Valleys throughout the place, like Austin included, but other places as well. And we somehow figured it out. And
I think that's true, that there will be more mobility and maybe new places that come up. I don't know if Silicon Valley has, passed some sell-by date, because it did hurt. The coronavirus hurt. The lockdowns hurt in the sense that part of what keeps things going is social. And so a lot of young people, even before coronavirus, moved to San Francisco. It was very strange to watch, because in the 80s, we all lived in the Valley and it was less populated, and San Francisco was grungier. It was more like Dirty Harry in the 70s.
Yes.
But by the 90s, and Jamie runs a nightclub there, and he's talked about this, you had sort of wealthy tech people moving in, south of Market, fancy townhouses being built. And that's continued in such a point that it's almost like, what's the movie by the South African director Nels Jodie Foster up in the space colony? Matt Damon is the guy on the Earth who has to go up. And anyway, it's about the stratification. It's about the great inequality. The people in the space station have like amazing medical auto docs that can extend their life or save them, cure cancer. People on Earth are all suffering, ground down in poverty. That sort of happened while I was here. You saw a lot of money drive prices up along the narrow peninsula, and the single people wanted nightlife, so they were in the city, and the condos in the city got super expensive. And I know even Google friends who are, socially responsible say we should have more housing built. We should have yes in my backyard, not in my backyard. But that's not happening as far as I can tell. And from the government to the incumbent, landowners and renters, it's just not happening. And that has to drive people away. I appreciate that people come here, and you should wait for the prices to moderate.
Yeah.
They will. But a lot of people are going to go where the prices are lower.